Welcome back to my channel where choices are often made. Generally they are poor ones, so the price of admission is your pity. And also your amusement, because I'm not doing it to make myself happy. Okay, I really have to put these down now. Honestly, they look at me and they go, that girl, she's full of bright ideas. And welcome back to my channel, otherwise known as the place where you guys ask me to do things, and I do. It's just that they all terrify me. I asked you guys on my Instagram, which by the way is the place where I get most of my ridiculous ideas, Instagram and Patreon. Place where I'm like, we have such lovely communities there, everybody is so nice. And then you make me do all the things that I don't want to do, those places. So yes, this one is the fault of Instagram. I asked you guys what videos you would like to see from me in the coming weeks, and overwhelmingly you asked for a new 5-star predictions video. So here it is. You asked for it. Just remember, you asked for it. But before we get into the books, I first want to take a moment to thank the sponsors of today's video, Ana Luisa. If you've been around my channel for more than 5 minutes, you guys will know that I am a passionate fan of Ana Luisa. I have worked with them on a number of occasions, and I am really pleased to tell you guys that I am now one of their brand ambassadors. Ana Luisa are a sustainable jewellery brand which just brings joy to my little witchy heart. I love green things, inside and outside, and I would like our planet to remain, you know, green and happy for many generations to come. And Ana Luisa are joining in with this fight. All of their jewellery is completely carbon neutral. The planet doesn't know that it exists. We're finally having summer here in Scotland, and so today I have decided to wear their Alexa sunshine necklace along with my sunflowers to complete the look, which is one of the things I love about Ana Luisa. It's so easy to complete your look. Here it is in all its glory, this absolutely stunningly stamped coin. This one is a new piece for me, but I have already had so many compliments on it, and I am pairing it today with their beautiful Chloe ring. This is a beautifully braided ring. It makes me think of like braiding grass. It is so comfortable, it feels so nice to wear. Right now Ana Luisa are in the start of their first big summer sale. It runs all the way until the 27th of July, so if you want to get your hands on any of these summery beauties, then you can do so by following my link down below. And by shopping via my unique link, not only are you supporting me and my channel, but you are also going to get yourself a tasty little discount. So go on, head on down to the description below. I will wait while you do your shopping. While I'm waiting, I'll look at this terrifying pile of books. Alright, I suppose I can't actually avoid it anymore by talking about the pretty things. Let's make predictions. But why, Leanne? I hear you ask, do you have a problem picking 5-star predictions? Surely they're books that you pick yourself because you think you will like them. Not like we're making you pick weird books to read that you've had for 12 years and have forgotten about. Well, yes, all of this is true, but 5-star predictions videos and I don't have the best history on this channel. You see, I have done 2 of these videos in both 2020 and 2021, and neither of them have particularly yielded favourable results. And I kind of feel a little bit jinxed. I feel hexed. I feel scared to put any of these books on the list because it might mean that one of them's going to be an absolute stunner and the rest of them are going to be trash. And honestly guys, the track record in 2022 so far for trash has been astronomical. You girls just not okay about it. And so in an effort to break my own pattern, I have chosen not 5 books, but 8 books. Go big or go home, bitches. I have made sure that they span many genres, unlike my previous videos. So we are going for a full reset here. Alright, okay, let's just talk about them. The first one that I have got for this list is this absolute chonker. This is Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Rio, and it is 660 pages of not very large font. I make such good choices, don't I? But the reason I have included this one on this list is because it is a complete blind buy for me. Usually when I go into bookshops and I look at the new release sections, I have heard of at least 70% of what's there. It is very, very seldom these days that I walk in, I pick up something like this that I've never heard of before, and I end up stuck. In this occasion, I was with Harry in a bookshop, I picked this up, I started reading it, and they came back 10 minutes later and are like, are you gonna buy that or do we need to move in? This one has like 1 foot in horror, 1 foot in sci-fi, an arm somewhere in urban fantasy, and the other arm's kind of like reaching for classic X-Men. Can you see why I got excited? So this one follows Charlie, Ovid and Marlowe in 1882. They are two very young children who have discovered that they have some very unique abilities. These two children are scooped up by what the blurb describes as two grizzled detectives who have been sent to gather the kids up and take them north to safety. North in this case is the Cairndale Institute, where a strange scientist collects these foundling children, looks after them, and I am assuming studies them for the greater good. But this trip north is not going to be quite as easy as the detectives think, as they are confronted by dark forces. I love the end of the blurb because it says, what follows is a journey from the gaslit streets of London to the lochs of Scotland, where other gifted children, the Talents, have been gathered. Soon the Talents will discover the truth about their abilities and the nature of the force that is stalking them. That the worst monsters sometimes come bearing the sweetest gifts. Does this, or does this not, sound like a Leanne book? So on the list of 5-star doom it goes. You better continue to be good, dude. You better. Next up, something that I've never done before on a 5-star predictions list, and that is put on a book from an author who I've previously read from and absolutely adored. In this case, I have Afterwards by Rosamund Lupton. And before I go any further, I will say please do not judge any of Rosamund Lupton's books by their covers. Rosamund Lupton has been done incredibly dirty by her publishers because these covers do not reflect the content of these books, even in the slightest. For example, this is the cover for 3 Hours. 3 Hours is one of the best thriller books that I have ever read in my entire life. I would have given it all of the stars. But it looks like this. And this absolutely does not reflect any of what goes on inside the book, except that it happens in the snow, and not on a weird snowy road, but in the middle of a forest next to a sea. You see where I'm going with this? So I'm just going to pretend that this book does not look like this. I don't know, guys. No shade to the person in the original red dress, but much shade to the person who badly photoshopped her into trees. This one follows Grace on a perfectly ordinary day as she is waiting outside of her children's school for them to come out at the end of the day. But as she is waiting there, she sees smoke. Smoke turns into flames. She realises that the school is on fire, and in the chaos of the playground, her kids are nowhere to be seen. Grace then does what I think any of us would do. She runs into the flames to try to find her child. The blurb then says, afterwards, Grace must find the identity of the arsonist and protect her children from the person who's still intent on destroying them. I am so looking forward to this one. It's almost double the size of 3 Hours, which feels like such a treat. That was like last year, or maybe the year before, and so these books have just been languishing on my shelf since then, because I often get that fear thing where I'm like, I loved this past work from this author so much. Can this one possibly live up to it? Am I just setting myself up for disappointment? I guess we're gonna find out. Next up, I'm doing another first for a 5-star prediction video. I have previously had non-fiction, but I have never included a memoir in a 5-star predictions video, and I read memoirs on the regular these days. I would say that non-fiction takes up about 1/3 of my overall reading. And if we look closer to that section, I would say 1/4 of it's true crime, 1/4 of it's social justice, 1/4 of it's weird history, like A Curious History of Sex, and the last 1/4 is made up of memoir. And that little 1/4 is a very successful little 1/4. It usually has some very high ratings in it, and so I was like, I'm gonna put one of them on the list, because statistically, even as a person who suffers from dyscalculia, I can work out that that brings my overall chance of having a 5-star somewhere on this list up a few percentage bumps. So the memoir that I have picked is The Natural Mother of the Child, a memoir of non-binary parenthood by Krys Malcom Belc. So Krys is a trans-masculine non-binary parent, and this is essentially his memoir of what it was like to conceive and to give birth in his body. It sounds like from the blurb that while Krys found the experience of being pregnant and actually giving birth to be a very gender affirming experience, it wasn't until afterwards, until legal documents were involved, that Krys started to question things. Krys's wife Anna had to formally adopt their child, but on the documents Krys was listed as the natural mother of the child, despite all of their pronouns being he, his. And so this memoir is an exploration of what that journey was like. It's told in both pictures, diary entries and scanned documents from the time, which I absolutely love. Some of my favourite memoirs have a lot of family ephemera in them. Old pictures that have been found, old clippings that have been taken from newspapers at the time. I've been excited to read this one for quite a while, so I am crossing my fingers as it is as good as I hope it is. Please be 5 stars, thank you very much. Next up, we are flipping on over to the horror genre. I read an awful lot of horror, and I'm usually, she says trepidatiously, quite good at picking books in that genre that are usually 5 stars. This book, however, I feel like I'm taking a tiny little bit of a leap of faith on. This book is Leech by Hiron Ennes. I actually literally just received this one in the mail this week from the wonderful people at Book Break, and as soon as it arrived I was like, oh, that sounds like a me book. There was a little quote at the top of the blurb which particularly got me. It says, "I suspect these fables are born from the dread that perhaps, if one takes time to peel back the skin of another, they will find an imposter, a machine, or stranger still, something like me." Gross, give me more. So from what I understand from the blurb, this one follows the Interprovincial Medical Institute. This institute, very slowly over hundreds and hundreds of years, have been literally possessing and taking control of young minds, so that all of the doctors in the world are controlled by them. However, the blurb then goes on to say that this institute may now have competition, because out in the wilds of nowhere at an isolated castle, one of their young doctors mysteriously dies. They send somebody to go and investigate, and it turns out that a parasite has taken root in that castle, and it's planning on taking over. At the end it says, with the other inhabitants trapped inside by the freezing winter winds, these two enemies will battle for ultimate control. The question is not who will make it out alive, but what. This sounds so incredibly screwed up, so I am willing to take a chance on it. Into the 5-star prediction pile it goes, and I will let you know what I think. Next up, we are drifting back to fantasy, where I am actually, for once, listening to the hype. You guys know that typically the hype sends me running far away. The hype train comes choo-chooing into the station, and I'm inside in the cafe with my books from 2 years ago, and I let the train go. But for some reason this book has earwormed its way into my subconscious, and every time I come in and look at my fantasy shelves I'm like, I'm gonna read you. It's not even a I'm gonna read you sometime, it's an I'm gonna read you soon, which let me tell you is a bigger promise than more than half of my books get. This book is The Ruin of Kings by Jennifer Lyons, and it is fast becoming a fantasy booktube favourite. It is the first book in the A Chorus of Dragons series, and that is very difficult to say, and nobody done thought that through. And if I am correct, it is a series rather than a trilogy, which I'm both happy and sad about. Happy sad, because whilst I am over everything in the world being a trilogy, I do also own that it does mean that there is a closer conclusion in sight, rather than waiting years and years and years for these huge tomes to come out. But never mind, we are invested now, and we go. So this one is about Hiron. He lives in Kerr's slums, where he is slightly luckier than most, being an apprentice bard, but where he still has no real prospects for getting out of there. And that is the one thing Hiron wants to do more than anything else in life, which I think we can all understand. However, one day Hiron raids the wrong house, which suggests to me Hiron might not have been alone, but I guess we'll find out. And what follows sounds like a crazy rush to grab Hiron as multiple factions become aware of him at the one time. So while Hiron is running, he's also desperately trying to work out what he is running from, when he discovers that he features in a prophecy. Except he's not the hero, because the hero saves the world and he's meant to destroy it. Like, boom. And to be fair, I think I would run from that too. The thing that really drew me into picking this one up, however, is that I know from multiple different sources, primarily Becca, that this one is kind of written backwards. It's pieced together from lots of different fragments, and we are already at the destruction which has been caused because of Karen. Like, the world is falling apart. And we find out backwards exactly what happens, and there are a lot of footnotes at the bottom of every page which are kind of like correcting the misinformation that's in the text itself, and I love that. I love a multi-layered book, especially a multi-layered fantasy book. I'm all about the world building, so yeah, I've given in. It's going on the 5-star predictions pile, and I don't know. I honestly don't know. These last two, they're just shots in the dark. They are hopeful grasps. However, we are staying in fantasy for the next offering on this list, and this one I am far more certain about, because this is The Dreamer's Pool by Juliet Marillier, and we all know that I love Juliet Marillier. And as with many of the authors that I've read quite far in the past and have really loved, I am eternally saying I need to pick up something else by them. And so while I was scouring my shelves to try and find more easy wins, more 5 stars that I knew were more likely to be 5 stars than not, this was the book that I landed on. To be honest, this one has also been upmost in my mind for a while now, because I have been trying really hard to get a hold of the last book in the series, which is Den of Wolves in the mass market paperback version, and I finally managed to get it a couple of weeks ago. And yes, I can hear all of you screaming at me in the background. I have said on multiple occasions that I have stopped buying whole series before I have read them, but Juliet Marillier is a very safe bet. Almost as safe as buying another Lisa Jo book. I'm guaranteed to like it. It's just, how much am I gonna like it? And obviously I'm hoping that I like it 5 stars much because it's on this list. This one follows Blackthorn. She is a healer and she has been in a dungeon for quite a long time. She sees nothing but imminent death in front of her, and so when she is offered the chance to escape that death, to escape the dungeon, to go free and make a new life, she takes it. But as with all of Juliet Marillier's books, there's a catch. In order to escape to freedom, Blackthorn has to agree that any person who crosses her path and asks for any kind of help, she has to assist them. Which sounds really sucky to me, but less sucky than death. And the other half of Blackthorn and Grimm, which is what the series is called, is Grimm, a silent, massive man who was in that dungeon along with Blackthorn, who accompanies her to start her new life, literally living in a forest. And let's be honest, which one of us doesn't want to run away and start a new life in the forest? I mean, but while they are in the middle of their new life in this forest, a prince comes calling. He has a very strange predicament and he really needs Blackthorn and Grimm's help to get out of it. And the end of the blurb says, to save Oren from his disastrous nuptials, Blackthorn and Grimm will need courage, ingenuity, and more than a little magic. All of Juliet Marillier's books feel like coming home in the way that coming back to a fairy tale feels like coming home, except that you know that in that fairy tale there's something really dark and creepy waiting for you in the shadows. Yep, I think that's an accurate depiction of all of her worlds, so I'm very excited for this one, especially as I could just go on and finish the whole series if I wanted to, and nobody could stop me. On to the pile you go. Next up, we've got a little bit of mystery, thriller, ominous, horror-y stuff. And this one is another blind pick. A couple of months ago I was in Rare Bird's bookshop in Edinburgh, which is an independent bookshop that I practically live in at this point, which specialises in publishing women's voices and non-binary voices. And I spotted a book and I read the back of the book and I thought, I've bought a lot of books today, I can't buy another blind pick. And I put it on the shelf and I walked away, and from that moment onwards that book bothered me. Deeply bothered me. I thought about it every time I walked into a bookshop, but I could not remember the title of it. And then a couple of weeks ago I was back in Rare Birds and I immediately went back to the section and there it was. Whether it was that original copy that I had picked up and abandoned, or whether it was multiple copies on, whatever the case, I brought it home with me and it's safe now. This is the Master Key by Masako Togawa, and this one is apparently a classic Japanese crime. This one was originally published in 1962, and I think this translation is from 1985, so that is just very cool. I love a lot of British classic mysteries and crimes, but I haven't explored a lot of translated ones, so It also helps that it's tiny. And although I say that sarcastically, genuinely small, tightly plotted, sparsely worded classic crimes are just I wouldn't usually, but I'm just going to read you the very short blurb for this one because it is this blurb that planted it in my brain and just wouldn't let me go. In a Tokyo boarding house for single women, every resident seems to be hiding something. The virtuoso violinist tortured by guilt, the mysterious white-haired medium, the recluse who sets the table every night for a guest who never comes. When the master key to all 150 rooms is stolen, the residents are gripped by paranoia. Who is sneaking about and prying into matters they thought long forgotten? Bit by bit, the true story of the boarding house's sinister past emerges. A tale of deceit, kidnapping and murder with deadly repercussions into the present. I really hope that this is as good as it sounds. And then finally, I have one that, like the Juliet Marillier book, is entirely likely to be an easy win for me. In fact, I will be astounded if it is not. This one is a sci-fi, and you will recognise it because I very recently hauled it. This is the Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. Thank you again to Book Break for sending this one along. I am a devotee of John Scalzi and what he does for humorous sci-fi. And when I say humorous sci-fi, I don't mean like haha funny tongue-in-cheek sci-fi. I mean like all of his worlds are like dark and there's big things happening in them. There's huge dramatic plots which are like changing the surface of a nation or a planet or, you know, an entire galaxy. But they are always from the perspective of somebody who has a truly sarcastic nature, who has a heart that just speaks to mine, and that is why I love him so. So in this book we follow Jamie Gray, who is barely keeping body and soul together in New York. He's a pizza delivery driver. He hates his entire life, and so when he stumbles over an old friend delivering a pizza, he thinks that his luck is in because his old friend offers him a job. He sees the predicament that Jamie's in and is like, maybe I could offer you something that's better? Except his old friend Tom neglects to mention that this better job is not actually here on Earth. It's in an alternate dimension that Tom goes to work in. And in that alternate dimension there is an animal reserve, the reserve for the Kaijus, which are massive Godzilla-like monsters. And why, you ask? Do they want to preserve these massive monsters? Well, it's because they are being hunted. They are endangered creatures and they want to keep their population alive. But Jamie cannot possibly prepare himself for either the fight that is coming to keep these animals alive or the number of things that he has to go through in order to work with them. You know, like inoculations from diseases and other training things. My lovely friend Kirsty, who's amazing Bookstagram, I will link down below, actually read out several passages of this to me on voice note on WhatsApp, and I was actually almost weeing when I was listening to them. So I am fairly sure that this one will be a 5-star, as long as the curse of the 5-star prediction videos does not continue. So that's it, guys. There are the 8 new 5-star predictions that I have. They are incredibly heavy. There you go. There's my top tip for starting a booktube channel. Have very strong wrists. And please to wish me all of the luck, because I cannot tell you how depressed I shall be if the majority of these are not 5 stars. I am starting to doubt if I know my own reading tastes, and that's a scary place to be. And before I go, don't forget to check out the wonderful pieces that you can grab for yourselves in the summer sale from Anna Louisa. Remember, clicking on my link down below and shopping there supports my channel and also gets you a cheeky little discount. If you are new here, consider sticking around to see how this stack goes. And if you have enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up because it really does help my channel. As always, if you have read any of these books, then please let me know what you thought of them down in the comments below. Even if they were not 5 stars for you, I still want your opinion. And of course, if you have any recommendations for me based on the books that I think will be 5 stars, then please leave those down below, because your girl's wish list could always use some additions. And I will speak to you guys soon. Bye! Now the thing is, I actually have to put all of these back on the shelves because the space that they're sitting in right now is where McNabb's bed goes. If I do not put it back, I do not know if I will be here to tell you whether these books were 5-star predictions or not. So let's do the tidying up thing.